Yesterday, the New York Stock Exchange closing bell rang in gratitude of all who have stepped up during COVID-19, like the numerous local restaurants who helped provide more than 25,000 meals to FDNY EMS workers in New York City. Thank you to all of our first responders, the folks out on the front lines. A real attitude of gratitude here that we are continuing on through the month of May. So what's coming up today? So we'll hear from the mayor of San Diego about 5G. We'll talk to Andy and Katie about Up to Speed and all of your great stories. Hopefully you caught Up to Speed this morning with a look back at some stuff that was going on there. Wellness Friday, Guru will be here with a Q&A with the author of the New York Times bestseller, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, Lori Gottlieb, and a few words on bringing us all together. So I want to start, though, with a quick soundbite from the mayor of San Diego yesterday as we launched 5G there in San Diego.
But the bottom line is that 5G is going to make it easier for our local businesses and residents to stay connected with faster and more reliable internet access than ever before. We are proud at the city to partner with Verizon to make 5G available to the healthcare industry, to businesses, and of course, our residents alike.
And San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer there talking yesterday at a press conference. You can see some of the upload speeds that we're giving the city of San Diego there. Just incredible, our download speeds, just incredible stuff out there, our 35th 5G city. So quick look back at the week that we had. We had Christy and Hans on talking about business as usual. We talked hurricane season preps. How appropriate was that, as there was that tropical system that went in through the Carolinas? You know, we are always ready, and we are operating in a sense of network sustainability. We also heard from Kevin Service talking about wireline, the wireline network, and all of the things that his team they're doing to keep our customers connected. And of course, last night, Pay It Forward Live with Dave Matthews and the great interview that we had yesterday with Thad from Cleveland, Ohio was really cool. But I want to bring in Andy and Katie now. For the past couple months now, we've had two different editions of Up to Speed that you saw in the morning and what we're doing here at noon. And we thought, as we talk about our business as usual, a good time to bring those back together because, man, you all have some incredible stories that you have shared with us along the way. And I just wanted to bring them on to talk about some of their favorites, some of my favorites, before we get over to Wellness Friday. Katie, take it away. What were some of your favorites?
Hey, Jeremy, thanks. So yeah, absolutely. Just talking about your weekend review, talking to Thad yesterday was definitely one of the highlights for me so far as we've done Up to Speed Live, but a few other stories that really resonated with me. You may remember we talked to a lot of V-teamers on how they're supporting their community, and Sanjeev Gupta and his team with the Livingston Robotics Club are using the technology to produce 3D masks and face shields and really being there to support frontline healthcare workers. So that's nurses, doctors. And what's really cool about it is something that started off as something kind of personal for Sanjeev and the club. They got involved with Mickey Palmer's team, the technology and product development group, and are making that effort go a lot farther, which has really been very cool. And, Jana Best, after her day as a customer care center rep, she is starting her shift as an EMT in the Dunellen Rescue Squad in New Jersey. She and her husband, Jeffrey, have been volunteering there for 20 years. And she was dedicating all of her time to work on this, and then she was able to take advantage of Verizon's Leave program. And we got to get this cute little guy taking his first steps. So these are the things that remind us that despite everything that is happening around us, that there are still these milestones and these joyous moments happening all around us. And we've talked a little bit here on Up to Speed. We're out here telling our story for the V team and those, in the community who want to hear and see what we're doing. And, speaking of milestones, I know there are two folks watching today, one who has a milestone. That's my dad. He's retiring. Today is his last day of work. So as far as the Resick family's good news, I wanted to share a quick hi and hello to Dad on his last day of work.
Oh, that's great, Katie. Thanks for sharing that. Now, bringing in Andy now from the suburbs of Chicago. Andy, how's the leg doing? How you holding up?
Leg's doing much better, walking around, gingerly, a couple steps here and there. But here we are. I feel like this is some sort of a crossover episode, Jer. Welcome to the set of Up to Speed Morning Edition, aka my mother's house. So thanks, Mom, and congratulations, of course, to Katie's dad. But just looking back on all the things that we did on the morning episodes and how it's all moving over here to live now, we got a really good look back at some of the things that we loved. And honestly, it's the creativity of our V teamers that I appreciated so much coming into our good mailbox. I mean, there were trick shots that people were, showcasing and sending to us. And this, shot here of the hockey puck there. This is one of the kids of our V teamers who, watched the show where we say, hey, send us our trick shots. And he went over there and, put that little goal in there. We got toilet paper, soccer, we got golf, ping pong in a cup, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. And, it was hard to find like a favorite clip or a favorite story. I think what was really cool though was just getting a different side of people. I know that there's a lot of heavy things going on in the world since we started doing this, and this was such a nice way to create a sense of levity, a sense of community, and just really get to know each other on a really personal level. So we were all about having fun, but at the same time, I think it just gave us a lot of perspective. And so to everyone who helped us make that morning show episode. Morning show episodes, thank you very much. And none of that is going away. It's all just going to come here to Up to Speed Live. So it's nice to join forces again, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's good. And, it's interesting how our teams, they cross, we come in the middle and making things. And ultimately what we're trying to do here is show the good that's going on. A lot of things happening around and inside Verizon. That's really what's anchored us to Up to Speed for so many years now. Andy, getting a couple of comments here on Twitter. Hashtag more Andy's mom, and please don't take Andy's mom from us. How's your mom? She's doing well?
She's doing really well. So she, I said, hey mom, this one's going to be live now. Maybe you can just walk by and say hello. So she went straight to gardening to avoid the cameo. But no, we're having fun here, and she's it's been nice, and it's been a real blessing to be around helping each other out. And it's just, I think it's a dynamic that a lot of us are finding new ways to connect with our families, whether we're with them or apart. It's been really nice.
Yeah, that's good to share. Good to hear she's doing well. And again, congrats to Katie's dad on the retirement today. That is a monumental and a life moment there that is so good, and I'm glad you shared that with us. So, I want to take a moment to do some stuff here with recognition. If you want to go and roll the video, make a point as much as possible to recognize our folks. Of course, all the people on our customer service teams figuring out new ways to work from home. You see some of these folks there, retail folks who redeployed into some of these positions. Of course, around the world, our GTS, our tech teams figuring out ways to make that work so we could be remote. And who could forget this image of the Navy ship Comfort coming into New York City, as so many members of our team were waiting there to greet it, to get it wired for service that was so critical. And then, of course, like I said earlier this week, we heard from Kevin Service talking about his wireline network team out there coming up with new solutions for our customers, like the Texi app that you're seeing here, or even coming up with a solution to get customers connected with something we called Fios in a box. I mean, hats off to all of the really proud V teamers out there who keep working and keep our customers connected. I can't say that enough, from the business teams to Verizon Media to Connect and Visible that we've talked about along the way. So I appreciate all the work they've done. And a new piece of recognition today, Chris, if you want to take that next slide here, we're giving thanks to one of our folks who has been redeployed, Rolando, who is out in California. This is a note that a customer sent in, Sandra Constantino from Colorado, saying during these difficult days in connecting with businesses, receiving recordings, or experiencing limited service, I had the absolute good fortune today of connecting with one of your representatives who provided me with the utmost helpful assistance and exhibited genuine care for me, the Verizon customer. Sandra, been a customer since 1997. How about that? She went on to say, you are very lucky to have an employee of his caliber. What superb service he provided to me. Way to go. Hats off to him and all of our folks out there continuing to connect our customers. So here's where it comes to you next. We want to make sure we keep sharing these stories for you, so you can always email them to us at good@verizon.com. Andy, Katie, as we're kind of wrapping up this section before we go to Wellness Friday and a couple other things, any closing thoughts from either one of you? You're on the spot.
I'll just say, keep the good coming, Jeremy. I know, it's all about balance. And so, as we get back to BAU, I think it's important that we continue to share sort of aspects of our lives that may not necessarily be part of the business, but part of our just who we are. And so keep sending those great stories to good@verizon.com, and we'll make sure we continue highlighting that.
Yeah, that's good. Katie?
I'll echo what Andy said, but it's our privilege to share with everyone, what's happening in and around Verizon, and we can't do that without all of you. So, like Andy said, send those good stories to the good mailbox, drop us a line, tell us what's happening in your corner of the world, your business, and we'd love to share it.
Yeah, great. Andy, Katie, thanks so much. And you'll continue seeing Andy, Katie, and other folks from the Up to Speed team as we keep going forward with Up to Speed throughout and onward and upward as we take this every day at noon. Speaking of noon, I want to make sure you all have this on your calendar, and I know you do because we put it there. But join us Monday for the Leadership Forum, where we will hear from Hans. He'll be talking about the Pulse survey results. He'll also be joined by other leaders from around the business. So you want to make sure you tune into that. We'll be taking some of your live questions. So if anything business related is in your brain right now that you want to get an answer from Hans, go ahead and drop those to us via email. The address is live@verizon.com. So it'll be set and ready to go. But that is noon on Monday for the Leadership Forum. And I want to end with this today, some final thoughts, because there's been no shortage of news about coronavirus, but we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the events that have occurred in both New York City and Central Park this week and Minneapolis, which have continued to make headlines around the world. Both stories remind me of the quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., where he said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. At the end of the day, there are millions of reasons that could divide us all, but as a V team, it's important that we come together, even while we're apart, to move the world forward. And that's what being a company that has a purpose is all about. And that's something that makes me so proud to be a part of this V team. And I hope you feel the same way, and we'll have more on that in the coming days. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today for Up to Speed Live. I think now we're going to go over to Guru for Wellness Friday and the segment that he'll have with us today. Guru, how are you? Good Friday to you, my friend.
Hey, Jeremy, good Friday to you as well. That was a great show. So I know we've got a big show coming up. I'm always grateful to be able to do the Wellness Friday with everyone. But before I get started, I want to thank Jeremy, Katie, and Andy. You guys are the lifeblood of good energy at Verizon. Thanks for all of you and the team that keep us connected and celebrating all the things that make V Team so special. So thank you so much for all the great work that you're doing, and amazing to always tune in. And I also want to congratulate Katie's dad on retirement today. That's amazing. Congratulations, and have a wonderful weekend there. So we have a very special guest. I'm going to tune in now into our Wellness Friday, this Up to Speed segment. We have a very special guest joining today, Lori Gottlieb. Lori is a psychotherapist and author of the New York Times bestseller, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, which is now being adapted as a television series. In addition, her clinical practice, she also writes at the Atlantic's weekly called Dear Therapist advice column, and also contributes regularly to the New York Times and many other publications. She's also a member of the Advisory Council for Bringing Change to Mind and advisor to the Aspen Institute. So needless to say, she's a real leader in this space, and I'm so excited to be here with her today. So welcome, Lori. Thanks for being with us. You are amazing. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time, and this is a great platform. There are many thousands of our colleagues who are tuning in and watching us today. So how are you doing? And thanks for being here.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm so glad we can have this conversation. And I'm doing well, all things considered. And, I think that what I think a lot of us need right now is some tools maybe for how we can move through this a little bit more smoothly. And I think that that's going to be helpful for people.
That's great. And I know when I was talking about your background and thinking through this, can you first tell us, all of us, a little bit about how you decided that you wanted to become a therapist and what inspired you to even seek therapy for the first time?
Yeah, so I have the most probably non-linear path ever to becoming a therapist. I originally started working in film and television, and I was working at NBC on what was then a new show called ER. And I was really fascinated by the stories, the rich human stories. And I was working with a consultant in the actual emergency room who said, maybe you should go to medical school because you like these real life stories. So I went to medical school. I left medical school to become a journalist. And then later, where I felt like as a journalist, I was helping people to tell their stories, I feel like as a therapist, I'm helping people to change their stories. So I've always worked in sort of story and the human condition.
It's amazing. When I was thinking through your book, one of the things you talk about, the book, maybe you should talk to someone, therapist or therapist, and our lives revealed. You talk about few of your patients, and what made you want to talk about them? That's one, and then tell their stories. Can you please share some themes that you saw emerge from these stories?
Yeah. So in the book, I follow these very seemingly different people. There are 4 patients that I follow, and there's a 5th patient, and the 5th patient is me as I go through my own therapy when I'm struggling with something in my own life. And I say at the very beginning of the book that my greatest credential is that I'm a card-carrying member of the human race. That I didn't want to just be the expert up on high, but I wanted to show that we're all more the same than we are different. So when you look at those people that I'm following, they might seem very different from the reader at first, but by the end of the book, people say, I saw myself in every single one of these people because underlying whatever presentation they have, age, gender, personality, history, struggle they're going through, I think that we all share common universal fears, struggles, things that get us stuck. We all have blind spots. And so I think the book is really about the human condition.
And what did you hope that people would learn from your book and about what therapists are experiencing?
Yeah. Well, I think that one thing that you learn from the book is that we grow in connection with others. And I think that's so important right now, too. But, I wrote this book not knowing, of course, that there would a year later be a global pandemic and that connection would be more important than ever. But I think that it's really important for people to understand that, we all, I think, feel isolated in our experiences and we don't really talk about them in a way that maybe is helpful to us. And when we take off the mask, when we stop, going through life with this sort of performative way of presenting ourselves, we deepen these connections, we deepen these relationships, not only to others, but to ourselves.
And I think it's a great way you're saying is, connections and connection is more important than ever, right? When you think about where we are today. And that's why even when we talk about you're not socially distanced, you're physically distanced, but socially very connected, you want that. And I, one of the way I know the way you talk about story, what I loved in the book and how you talk about is, therapy is often a very, really serious topic. And yet, you're full of humor in the book. And was it intentional? Why did you decide to weave so much levity into your story?
Because I think that that's part of what life is like. Human beings are ridiculous. And I say that with the utmost compassion, right? We can be ridiculous. And I think sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. And we need to be able to laugh at the human condition. I think, we're doing a television series of the book and with Eva Longoria and the creators of the show The Americans are writing it. And I think it's so interesting to see that humor being translated into the TV version too, because one of the things that I wanted to do with the book was to demystify what therapy actually is. I think that people don't go to therapy because they think that therapy is about you go in every week, you talk about your childhood forever, you download the problem of the week, you leave, you come back the next week, you download the problem of the week. And, that's just not what therapy is. Therapy is this rich human experience where, I talk in the book about the difference between idiot compassion and wise compassion. Out in the world, our friends give us idiot compassion, which is, we say like, my partner did this or my boss did this. And we say, yeah, they're terrible. You're right. And it's funny because that's not really helping them because usually they have a role in the situation. So what therapy is, it's really offering people wise compassion, where we hold up a mirror to them and help them to see something about themselves that maybe they haven't been willing to see, because we all have a role in our stories. And sometimes, people come in and they say, I really want things to change. but usually what they want to change is someone else or something else out there. And that's not to say that there aren't difficult people out there. I remember when I was training, one of my mentors said, before diagnosing someone with depression, make sure they aren't surrounded by assholes, right? So there are definitely difficult people out there.
Yes.
But then the question is, what is your role and how do you respond to the difficult people or circumstances in your life? And we have so much agency and so many more choices than we believe that we have. And therapy can help you to see what choices you do have and how you're not actually trapped in the ways that you think you are.
Yeah, and it's amazing how you say human beings are ridiculous in a good way. Coming back to, and when you talk about idiot compassion and wise compassion, it's a great way to put it. And and many times when I think through it, you talk about people are unreliable narrators, right? It's not that we lie, but we usually only tell half the story or leave our specific details. So can you talk more about that? When I was thinking through that, I was like, oh, that's so true. But would love to hear more how you structure that.
Yeah, that's such a big theme, and maybe you should talk to someone. And I also did a TED talk about this recently about how the stories that people come in with are usually unreliable because we are all unreliable narrators. And again, it's not that we're lying, it's that a lot of times our stories are distorted through our particular lens. So, who are the victims and heroes in the story, right? That's usually kind of mixed up. What parts of the story are we leaving in? What parts of the story are we leaving out? Do we emphasize certain parts of the story? So many times when we tell a story, we want the person that we're talking to agree with us. Instead of helping us to see something new, which would be very helpful, we just want them to say, yes, you're right. Your version of the story is right. But what often happens is if you can rewrite that story from another person's point of view, a whole slew of choices and perspectives will open up to you. So often when I see couples, for example, somebody is so sure that their version of the story is the accurate version of the story, whereas the other person has a version of the story that's also accurate from that person's perspective. And so what I think it really does when you examine your story, if you can broaden your perspective by saying, what, this is just one version of the story, and there are many versions of the story that it would be helpful for me to think about.
Lori, it's a great way to say it. One of the things I talk about, and I would like for you to either correct me or give me a bit more different perspective. I talk about, hey, can you, and this is more on the business side, not, and I think you can apply to your story as well, is can you be unbiased when you wake up every day, everything you do? Because most times there is a story to everything, right? You can always say, this is what you want to prove. So I'm going to tell this story to prove that point, whatever it is. Is there other way to say that you want to be as unbiased in a way without having a perspective? Or would you rather say, have some bias that's okay? How would you talk about the unbiased view? Because stories always have bias.
Yeah, well, of course, because we're all subjective, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when you use the words biased or unbiased, I think it's really about being curious. So you might have your perspective, but can you be curious about somebody else's perspective, or in the workplace, let's say, can you be curious about another person's idea? Can you be curious about the way they want to do something, even if your initial reaction is, oh no, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah. No, that's great. That also reminds me, there's the book, The Alchemist. One of the things about that book I love, every time you read, it's a different story.
Yes.
Because you can go through a different journey because you're curious about if this narration goes in this direction, what does it, how does the story end? Or you can take different perspectives. I feel like there's good relationship there. So as we examine our stories, right, it can help us see how we can change. You also talk about how we as humans can change, but are sometimes resistant to it. What are a few things that keep people from making important adjustments in their life?
Yeah, change is really hard because I think that people don't realize that change comes with loss. Loss is always tied with change. Even if you're making a positive change, usually you're giving up the familiar, the comfort of what you already know. And humans don't do well with uncertainty in general. And so when you make a change, you're going into something uncertain and you're leaving the thing that's certain. Even if you don't like the thing that's certain, it's for some reason it might feel like I feel a little bit more comfortable there. So I think that's part of why change is hard. I think the other part of it is change doesn't just happen like the Nike slogan, just do it, right?
Yeah.
Usually, and I go through, there's a chapter in the book called How Humans Change, and it's about the different stages that we go through from not even realizing that we're kind of unconsciously thinking about changing, to then it's kind of there, but we don't really realize it, to kind of planning the change and then being ready for action. And then the hardest part of change is after you've made the change. It's called maintenance. How do you maintain the change? And people feel like a lot of the times if they slip up, like if they go back to an old pattern, that all of the change was a waste, and it's not. It's normal that you're going to regress, and then you just go right back to it. So I think people have this idea that something's wrong with them if they can't easily make a change, but change is really hard. And I think the other reason change is hard is because my own therapist said this to me, and it's in the book too. At one point he said, "You remind me of this cartoon, and it's of a prisoner shaking the bars, desperately trying to get out. But on the right and the left, no bars. It's open." And I think so many of us are like that. We would rather sort of shake the bars and say, this circumstance is happening to me and I'm trapped and I can't change. And yet we can walk around the bars. But the reason we don't walk around the bars sometimes is because with freedom comes responsibility. And
Right.
if we walk around the bars, we have to be responsible for our choices. We have to be responsible for our lives. And quite frankly, it's easier to blame things that go wrong on someone or something else out there. We call these people sort of help rejecting complainers, the people who are, we all know them, right? And sometimes we are them. And those are the people who, they say they want help. And then every time you give them a suggestion, they say, yeah, no, that won't work because, no, I can't do that because, right? And so they don't actually want the help. They just want to complain.
Yes, and in business, I'm loving this because there is so much correlation, not just your personal life, but when you think about running a business, most times I talk about everybody has an excuse when things doesn't happen, right? And one of the core philosophies, your goal is to remove excuses because at some point you get to the core of it when you start removing. So I guess it's a parallel there. One good way to think about, if you think about COVID-19 and what it's done, you talk about change takes time in the previous point you just made, but COVID-19 is forcing change much sooner, that the mindset, our life situation, everything we're doing. Do you think these changes and the need that we all have is okay in terms of, I know there is no choice. In many ways you would say, but is it a big shock? How should people accept it? How should people walk through that change and say, this change is not happening over 3 years, it's happening in weeks and days, and I need to change, we need to change our lives. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think that change always presents an opportunity. So even if the circumstances are not something that you would have chosen, like what we're going through right now, I think so many people are really looking at what is important to them, what are their priorities, who matters to them, and what matters to them, because they've been forced to kind of step back and examine that. And they can also say, I think, in the book, there's this woman who, comes back from her honeymoon and she's diagnosed with cancer. And one of the things that she taught me in working with her that I think applies to all of us, even right now, is living your life with more intention. That, life has 100% mortality rate, and that's not just for other people. And I think we're seeing that right now. And I think that if we are aware that we have a limited time, and I think COVID-19 has certainly made that, front and center for us, then I think we live with more intention. And there are lots of things in our lives where we say, do I really want to spend my time on that as we emerge from COVID? Or are these things that I don't need to go back to? And what are the things that I really want to prioritize that I wasn't spending more time on that maybe I want to? So I think that it's, I think with change, there's always an opportunity to learn something new about what is important to you.
And just follow on the COVID-19 path. Why do you think, given the challenges now, why do you think therapy is important, especially right now during this time?
I think it's important because I think that we treat our emotional health differently from our physical health. So when something feels, we feel discomfort in our body, we're going to go to the doctor before, let's say we have a massive heart attack, right? We're going to get it checked out if you have, say, some discomfort in your chest. If you have emotional discomfort, often people feel like, well, I have a roof over my head and food on the table. So, my problems aren't that bad. I don't really need to get that checked out. And what happens is people come to therapy when they're having the equivalent of an emotional heart attack. And at that point, they've suffered unnecessarily for so long. Maybe they've had anxiety or depression or relational difficulties for a really long time. It didn't need to get that bad for them to come get some help. So I think right now people are saying, wow, emotional health is important. I actually need to focus on that. And maybe if I focus on that, not just in a crisis, but all the time, then I'm going to be more adaptable. I'm going to be more flexible. I'm going to be more resilient in my daily life.
But curious to also think about, unfortunately, there is sometimes stigma against therapy, right? In our society, not just here, but globally. Why do you think people are so resistant to therapy?
I think partly because they don't know what it is. And so I think when you read the book, people finally get an idea of what therapy actually is. And again, in the TV show, we're going to make that very accurate. So I think a lot of portrayals of therapists have either been the brick wall, the person who doesn't say anything. Nobody wants to go talk to a brick wall. And I think the other trope of therapy is, the therapist as the train wreck, the hot mess, right? The person who doesn't have their life together at all. And neither of those really reflects just normal human beings who happen to do this for a living. So I think that one thing is people have these weird ideas about therapy, and so they don't go. I think another thing is that there's stigma because they feel like everybody else has it all together and that they're the only ones sort of going through this. And they think something's wrong with them if they can't deal with a struggle on their own, that they're weak, that there's something, like that it's not a sign of strength. And yet going to get help is actually a huge sign of strength. It says, I value myself and I value the people around me. And I know that, having my emotional health be a priority is going to strengthen my relationships in the world.
Yeah.
And it's going to strengthen, everything about their lives. It's going to help them perform better at work. It's going to help them navigate their relationships more smoothly. And I think the other thing it's going to help them do is have a better relationship with themselves, because we are so unkind to ourselves. And people don't realize that. So I had this woman who said to me, oh no, I'm not self-critical. And I said, I want you to write down everything you say to yourself over the course of a few days and bring it back to me. Because when I give talks, I will say to the audience, who's the person that you talk to most in the course of your life? I'll say, is it your partner? Is it your sibling? Is it your best friend? Is it your child? Is it your parent? And people will raise their hands to all of that. But really, the person that we talk to most in the course of our lives is ourselves. And what we say isn't always kind or true or helpful. And so when you talk to yourself, ask yourself, is what I'm saying kind and true and helpful? And if it's not, it's like a bad radio station playing in the background. And so if you just turn the dial and go to a different radio station, because I think what happened was this woman came back and she said, I am such a bully to myself. I had no idea. And it would be things like, oh, you made that mistake. You're so stupid. Those are the kinds of things she would say to herself. We would never say that to a friend, not because we're trying to be nice, not because it's idiot compassion, but actually because if our friend made that same mistake, we wouldn't say, oh, she's stupid. That we would not think that about her. We'd think, oh yeah, she made a mistake. Yeah. And so I think that the ways that we talk to ourselves is really important. Even the way we're talking to ourselves about the pandemic, right? Yeah. I think a lot of people, they have these expectations for themselves that they're supposed to perform at the level they were performing before the pandemic without taking into account this experience that we're all going through. So, I say to people, if you go to, if you are prioritizing sleep, you're going to sleep at your normal time, you're waking up at your normal time, you take a shower every day, you're putting on clothes, and by clothes, I mean sweatpants, but something that's not your pajamas. You're eating your meals and you're taking care of your family and you're getting some work done in some capacity that you need to get done. You're doing amazing. It is amazing that you're doing all of that. But so many people are saying, I didn't get enough done today. And so I think that the way, again, when we go back to the story we're telling ourselves about how we're doing right now, especially parents are saying to themselves, I'm not doing enough. My kid is doing remote schooling. I'm not able to keep up with it, whatever it is. I would say to all parents, you are doing great. If your kids are still alive and everybody's, basically their basic needs are taken care of, you're doing great.
No, it's amazing. We are definitely capturing a lot of notes and tips that you're sharing, and a couple of things that at least stood out saying, you're not weak if you're asking for help. I think that's important, early on what you mentioned. And the greatest point, it's so obvious, but we don't realize, is you talk to yourself the most. So be kind, be true, and think about being helpful in that. I think it's it's amazing how you structure it, and I'm sure people will really like it. So I want to summarize, a couple of things. Since you also write an advice column, I want to get a few pieces of advice from you, some that you already shared for those tuning in. First, what would you say to someone who's having a hard time taking the first step and getting themselves into therapy? Let's start with that one, and then I'll go to the second one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that people are so afraid of their feelings. And that's part of the reason that they don't go to therapy. They're afraid of what am I going to discover there? And I think what people find is that their fear of their feelings is scarier than the feelings themselves. And our feelings, we have this idea that there's something negative about certain feelings, like anxiety or sadness. Anxiety and sadness and anger and all of those feelings are like a compass. They tell you what direction to go in. So if you're feeling anxious, it helps you to see, well, what's not working in my life? If you're feeling angry, it helps you to see, well, what is this that doesn't feel right to me? I'm angry because something felt like it wasn't right to me. If you're sad, you can say, what is that telling me about something that needs to change in my life? And so when we don't pay attention to our feelings, sometimes we try to numb them out with too much food or alcohol or hours spent on the internet. A colleague of mine says that the internet is the most effective short-term non-prescription painkiller out there. And we're all guilty of that, right? We try to numb our feelings, but numbness isn't the absence of feelings. Numbness is a state of being overwhelmed by too many feelings. If we don't feel our feelings, it's like walking around with a glitchy GPS. It means we don't know what direction to go in. The feelings are all there, but we're going to misdirect them into, a short-temperedness, again, into maybe like some kind of addictive behavior. And the feelings are just going to come out in a way that's not adaptive. So I would say to people, when you go to therapy, you get a really clear idea of, let me listen to my feelings. Let me use them to tell me what I need. Even things like envy. We're so afraid of envy. And I say, follow your envy. It tells you what you want. So if you're envious of another person, you can say, this is telling me about a desire that I'm not acting on in my own life. And what steps can I take to get something like that, whatever my desire is in my own life? So use your feelings, and therapy can help you to very skillfully get acquainted with your feelings and use them to your advantage.
One side question for you, Lori. You being on both sides, being a therapist and being a patient as well, which one is easier?
Oh man, I would say definitely being a therapist is easier.
Okay.
Being a patient is hard work, but it's so rewarding. And I think, it's hard work in the sense of, we say that insight is the booby prize of therapy, meaning people think they're coming to therapy and they're going to get some insight and that's going to help them. But if you just have insight and you don't make changes out in the world, insight is useless. So somebody will say, oh, now I understand why I got in that argument with my partner, right? And I'll say, well, did you do something different? Well, no, but I understand why I did that. Well, that's great. That's a first step. But then you have to use the insight to make changes. So therapy is really hard because it's not just happening in the room, but it's happening during the week when you're using the therapy to make changes out in the world. But, it's kind of like hard work in the way that physical therapy is hard work. It might be, hard in the moment, but you're going to become so much stronger as a result of doing it.
Thanks, Laurie, for that. And last question, more broader advice. I know you've recapped few today. If people are already who are going to therapy or not, generally from the session today, what would you say we should take away as we go down this path of COVID-19 beyond that mental well-being broadly? Just give us some broad structures for us.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, to practice self-compassion. Because I think that, again, going back to how hard we are on ourselves, I think people feel like if they have compassion for themselves, that they're not going to push themselves, or they're not going to be accountable, and they're not going to, really do the things that they need to do. It's quite the opposite. That when you self-flagellate, when you beat yourself up, in the short term, you might be more productive, but in the long term, you won't be. If you are self-compassionate, it not only gives you compassion for yourself so that you can then think more clearly and more calmly move forward and do what you need to do, but it gives you compassion for the people around you, and that opens you up to connections. It opens you up to new ideas. It opens you up to lots of possibilities. So I think the main thing right now is to watch that internal voice and make sure that that voice is compassionate.
Oh, thanks so much, Laurie. Well, I think that's the time we have today. Laurie, again, such an honor and privilege for us to have you and share a lot of thoughts. I think in summary, at least some of the things I took away and what you just shared, connection is more important than ever. We all feel isolated and don't always talk about our struggles, but it's important that we talk about it. Therapy can be a really rich human experience that we can all really benefit from. And we don't need to wait until we are at a point, as you said, the emotional heart attack, right? We can start earlier, start valuing and focusing on our emotional health right now. And this will help us all be kinder to ourselves first, as you said, self-compassion, and be more resilient in the future. I think that's what it builds. So thank you again, Lori, for being with us. I want to share with our employees out there that if you feel like you want to start talking to someone, make sure you're taking advantage of all the benefits and resources we have at Verizon, from the employee assistance program, physical and mental health benefits, and the support of peers in one of our ERGs. Lori, again, thank you for coming. It was a true pleasure. Thanks everyone for tuning. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're interested and want to learn more, I encourage you to check out Lori's book. It just maybe you need to talk to someone. And you know, as I said, there are amazing stories. Lori spoke about some of those stories today. It's amazing how it's lighthearted in many ways. As Lori said, it's humanified in many ways. So hope you guys can take something away from the book, which is maybe you should talk to someone. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.